Let's kick things off with a wild thought experiment. Imagine if, tomorrow, the government just announced that video games were over. For anyone under 18, gone. At least on weekdays. Well, that's not some sci-fi plot, it's a massive, real-life social experiment happening in China right now.
Yep, back in September 2021, that's exactly what went down. The Chinese government implemented one of the most hardcore policies of its kind anywhere in the world. And just like that, for millions of kids, daily life got flipped completely upside down.
So this begs two huge questions, right? First, why on earth did the state make such a massive move? And maybe even more interesting, how is this super tech-savvy generation of kids actually reacting? This is a classic story of top-down control clashing with bottom-up ingenuity.
Okay, so let's first get into the nitty-gritty of what this new world actually looks like for young people in China. The government didn't just target one thing. They came at it with a 1-2 punch aimed at completely changing what it means to be a kid. So rule number 1, online gaming for kids is now totally banned on school days. Period. And on weekends or holidays, they get a tiny window, exactly 1 hour from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. That is it. And at the exact same time, the gigantic multi-billion-dollar private tutoring industry was basically wiped out overnight. So two huge parts of modern childhood, gaming and extra classes, were just radically altered in a flash. Now you have to be asking, why? Why such extreme measures? Well, to really get the government's thinking here, you have to look at the incredibly powerful language they started to use. This was the phrase that sent an absolute earthquake through the tech world. A state-run media outlet published a piece calling online games spiritual opium. I mean, come on, comparing gaming to a powerful drug, that told everyone this wasn't just about limiting screen time. This was a full-blown moral crusade. But then a funny thing happened. After that article came out and the gaming giant Tencent immediately announced its own new limits, the state media went back and quietly edited the piece. They took out spiritual opium and electronic drugs. It kind of feels like it was a calculated warning shot, you know? Once the industry fell in line, they eased up on the language. Now, happening right alongside the gaming rules was this other massive policy called double reduction. The idea was pretty simple. Ease the insane pressure on students from what they called the twin burdens. First, the mountains of homework from school, and second, the crazy expensive, high-pressure after-school tutoring culture. The goal was to lower stress and make things a bit more fair for families who couldn't afford all those extra classes. And here's the part that might really surprise you. While this all sounds incredibly strict to many of us outside of China, these policies are actually wildly popular with Chinese parents. There's this deeply rooted cultural belief that a student's #1 job is to study. So for a lot of parents, having the government step in and get rid of distractions was a huge relief. Okay. So that's the view from the top. That's the government's plan. But what's actually happening on the ground? Well, as you can probably guess, the kids aren't just sitting back and taking it. They are getting seriously creative. You know, there's this fantastic Japanese word, shiritaka, that just perfectly describes what's going on. It means being resilient, clever, and just plain resourceful when things get tough. And boy, does it capture how these kids are dealing with their new reality. One of the most popular hacks is just pure social engineering genius. The gaming companies use national IDs and even facial recognition to check a player's age. So what do the kids do? They go to their grandparents, who are usually a little more chill than their parents, and ask them to set up a new account. Grandpa or grandma uses their ID, does the quick face scan, and boom! The kid now has an adult account with 0 time limits. And that is just the beginning. Kids are flocking to offline games that don't need to connect to the internet. They're using VPNs to play on international servers where China's rules don't apply. And to deal with homework, they're using these crazy AI apps where you just take a picture of a problem and it spits out the answer. It's a non-stop game of cat and mouse. And this resourcefulness isn't just about blowing off steam and having fun, it's also about figuring out how to survive the academic pressure that, let's be honest, hasn't really gone away. And that's led to some truly wild inventions. Get a load of this, the handwriting robot. It's this little device that you hook up to your phone and you can literally teach it your own handwriting. Kids were using these things to automatically do their most boring, repetitive homework like copying text over and over. It got so big that it started a national conversation, not just about cheating, but about whether that kind of homework is even useful anymore. So you might be thinking, how did we even get here? How do we get to a place where kids are so plugged in that the government can even try to control their digital lives like this? Well, it's because technology isn't just a part of childhood in China, it's woven into its very core. And we're talking about huge numbers. Before all these rules, minors made up almost 16% of the entire mobile gaming market. Suddenly cutting off that slice of the pie is a massive financial blow to these giant tech companies.
But the tech connection goes way deeper than just entertainment. It's also tied to this very real sense of parental anxiety around safety. This number here is a big reason why. The fear of child abduction is something many parents think about, and it pushes them to use technology to keep a constant eye on their kids.
And that fear is why devices like the Zhao Tiankai smartwatch are absolutely everywhere. For parents, it's the perfect middle ground. It's got real-time GPS tracking, it only allows calls from a list of approved numbers. You can even set up a virtual fence around, say, their school and get an alert if they leave. It's a digital tether that provides safety without the wild, unrestricted internet of a smartphone. So, where does this all lead? You've got the state pushing down with all these rules, and you've got kids cleverly adapting from below. What are the ripple effects of this great unplugging? What's the next chapter? That is the key question, isn't it? You can't just delete two of the biggest activities from a kid's life and expect nothing to take their place. Nature and the market can't stand a vacuum. So all that newfound free time has to be going somewhere.
And it looks like that somewhere is short-form video apps like Douyin, which is China's version of TikTok. Douyin actually saw this coming and jumped on the opportunity, heavily promoting educational content, videos about science, art, history for kids. And at the same time, parents are now pouring money into non-academic activities like music lessons, art classes, and sports.
When you boil it all down, this whole situation is really about a fundamental conflict. On one side, you have this incredibly powerful state trying to engineer a very specific type of childhood, one that's less stressed, more fair, and more focused on what it deems important. And on the other side, you've got the unstoppable creativity of young people, using the very same technology to carve out their own space. And that really leaves us with a final big question to chew on. This epic battle between regulation and resourcefulness, it's playing out at a scale and speed we've never seen before. So in this ultimate game of cat and mouse, where one side makes the rules and the other just keeps finding the loopholes, you have to wonder, will that spark of youthful ingenuity always find a way to plug back in?